Hello everyone and welcome to another Minimalist Gourmet video. Today I'm bringing you something very special, chorizo stuffed pork loin wrapped in bacon. Yes, you heard that right, pork on pork on pork. Let's get started. Starting things off with a brine, which is simply a mixture of water and salt, and in this case, sugar. In about 1 to 1.5 liters of water, I'm mixing in 5 tablespoons of table salt. Along with the salt, I'll be adding 3 tablespoons of table sugar. This will end up mixing with the water and creating kind of a syrup that will draw into the meat as we allow it to soak, drawing in moisture and flavor. Very much needed on a piece of lean meat like a pork loin. I was able to dissolve everything completely by stirring it with just hot tap water. If you'd like, though, you can bring this mixture up to a boil. However, you must let it cool to room temperature before placing your raw pork loin into brine. Pork loin is a very lean cut of meat. It tends to dry out easy when you're cooking it. Hence the reason we're taking the time to brine it, as well as use fattier cuts of meat such as chorizo and bacon to make sure that it stays moist during the entire cooking process. Place your unwrapped pork loin into the room temperature brine, cover, place in the refrigerator on the lowest shelf possible, and let it brine for anywhere between 2 to 4 hours. Because you're cooking this for yourself, you can customize this filling to be exactly as you like. Today I'm using a mixture of green bell peppers and onions, but let your mind explore. There are many options that you can consider. Some other options that would pair really nicely with this would be some button mushrooms, celery, or even some apple. Yes, apple and pork go extremely well together, so you should give it a try. Whatever toppings you choose for your filling, though, make sure they are chopped nice and fine so that they fit in and cook evenly in the stuffing. In just a second, you'll see why I'm also cutting large slices of onion in addition to the dice. It's very important that you pre-cook your stuffing. This will reduce the possibility of overcooking the pork loin while you're trying to get the center up to temperature. Get a frying pan up to temperature with some cooking oil in it while we decase the chorizos. Simply stick in a knife very carefully, run it along, and cut the skin down the center. You're going to squeeze the contents of the sausage out into the pan. Use a spatula to break down the chorizo and cook until it's about halfway done. Then add in your vegetables to the rest of your stuffing and continue to cook until everything just becomes cooked through, but do not overcook it, because this mixture will continue to cook slightly when we put it into the oven. As with all my videos, guys, yeah, we're always seasoning throughout the dish. Here I've added salt, black pepper, powdered garlic, and pizza condiment. This pizza condiment actually contains about 5 or 6 different spices. I find that if you're traveling or you have a small and minimalist kitchen, this is a great way to avoid having 5 or 6 different bottles of spices and the cost associated with them, but yet get all the full flavor. On an oiled baking tray, I'll place those onion rounds that I cut from before to make a nice base in which we can rest our pork loin. The onions will create a slightly elevated base off of the pan, allowing the hot air to circulate the pork loin and cook it more completely and not getting more done on one side than the other. Of course, as always, because we used onions, we brought flavor. Every step is an opportunity to add flavor, so never ever miss a chance. And speaking of adding flavor, let's go ahead and add another one. Here I've got cheese, specifically provolone cheese. You can use any type that you like, cheddar, mozzarella, provolone, they all do great. On to the star of this dish, the pork loin. You're going to want to pull this out of the fridge for about 45 minutes to an hour before you want to start prepping them up so they can come up to room temperature. Begin by giving them a nice rinse and clear off all that salt and sugar from the skin, and then completely dry them on all sides. Drying it is not only important to help us handle it, as well as cooking faster, which are both benefits. What you're looking at here is called silver skin, and it absolutely must be removed before we cook it. It has nothing to do with fat, and it will not soften or reduce down or break down and become more tender, so it has to go. However, it's very easy to do. Simply place the tip of your knife through the silver skin and then run it along the face at a 45-degree angle to the meat, as you see here. I had to use a serrated knife in order to remove this, which isn't quite the best, but it did work just fine. I recommend that you use a straight bladed knife if you can. It'll make a little bit smoother cuts. Before we can stuff the pork loin, we need to make a cavity in which to stuff. So we're going to do that by cutting down the side of the loin. It's going to be like making a hot dog bun, if you will. So kind of think of that motion. You don't want to go all the way through. You want to go about 3/4 of the way through and open it up like a book. I also don't cut completely through the very ends of the loin. This way it will resemble a kayak or canoe shape when you're done, and it gives a little bit more reinforcement when you stuff it. However, it's up to you. Additionally, you can butterfly cut it open, as you see me doing here, and then smash it flat with a meat mallet or pan. This is going to create a larger, flatter sort of cutlet style piece of meat. This you could go ahead and spread with the topping or your stuffing and then roll it to make more of a roulade, which is a bit traditional, and it's a little bit different than we're doing here, but you can certainly go that way. Every step, as I said, is a chance to add flavor. Here I'm throwing a very tiny bit of salt in, More garlic. I have some ground black pepper, some finely diced herbs, and anything else that you'd like. If I had at the time, I would have thrown a little Dijon mustard in the inside of this as well. This first loin is my wife's, and she just wanted some cheese inside of hers, so I'm going to simply stuff it with the cheese and then move on to the second part. Again, you can customize these dishes pretty easily if you have some picky eaters in the house. Eagle-eye viewers might have even noticed that I season them differently throughout the video. Use as much stuffing as you'd like, but try to avoid pressing it in really hard and making a very tight, dense bit of stuffing in the middle that can't have air circulate. It won't cook nicely or taste that great. I already stuffed the pork with the pork, so why not wrap the pork in the pork? And that's exactly what we're going to do. Start at one end and work your way to the other. Just simply take a rasher of bacon and wrap it all the way around, making sure to overlap the beginning of the second piece with the end of the first piece, and so on. By using a nice fatty cut of meat such as bacon rashers, what's going to happen is the bacon will cook, and as it does, that fat will render out and drip down and essentially base the pork loin, preventing it from drying out during this cooking process, also adding flavor. Set your oven to 375 to 400 and bake for 20 to 25 minutes before checking on it. I don't tend to use a meat thermometer when I cook. Obviously, as a minimalist, don't have that with me, but also it's important to know what signs to look for and how to tell if a dish is done. Some of the signs that I'm looking for here is to see that one, the cheese is melted completely. I can feel the heat's gone all the way around. The sausage is browned additionally on the outside. The bacon has rendered down and the fat has cooked out. And additionally, if you want to make sure 100%, go ahead and cut it open and take a look at the cross section. You should see that the juices, when pressed down slightly, will come out clear and they won't be pink or bloody whatsoever. Cover and let rest for 10 minutes before slicing and serving. That's it, guys. It is that easy to make this amazing dish tonight. Thanks so much again for watching Minimalist Gourmet.